Sir, I'm here to deliver a final eviction notice. You have 72 hours to vacate the premises. That was the line. That was the moment everything shifted. The man saying it, clipboard in hand, stood on my front porch with all the confidence of someone who thought he held the universe in a manila folder. His eyes never once glanced behind him, never even noticed the enormous bronze plaque mounted to the brick. Winthrop Homestead established 1862. His ignorance might have been laughable if it wasn't so damn offensive. Because he wasn't just trying to evict anyone, was trying to evict a Winthrop from Winthrop land in a township named after our family. That's when it hit me. This wasn't confusion. It wasn't a clerical error or a zoning mistake. This was war. I'd lived on this land since I was a kid. My great-great-grandfather built the original house from timber he milled himself. The soil had been turned by our hands for generations. Our farm weathered the Great Depression, Prohibition, 2 world wars, and 1 rogue tornado that decapitated our silo in 1978. But apparently it wouldn't survive Evelyn Carrington and her HOA goon squad. Evelyn introduced herself at a neighborhood mixer a year earlier with quinoa muffins, a 17-point list of neighborhood opportunities for improvement, and the smug attitude of someone who thought reading a legal thriller made her a licensed attorney. The moment she handed me that envelope white with gold trim and a wax seal like it was a wedding invitation, I knew we were headed for a storm. The letter inside? A warning. Failure to comply would result in legal action and possible removal. 17 violations. My barn? Illegal structure. My porch light? Not regulation. My grandfather's heirloom chickens? Unauthorized livestock. They weren't animals anymore, they were code violations with feathers. I pulled open the drawer of my grandfather's oak desk, reached past some yellowing maps and a mason jar full of ancient buttons and found it. The deed. The original. Ink-signed, wax-sealed, and framed with clauses so ironclad they'd survived 4 county reviews and a failed attempt to annex the property back in the 70s. The key clause? This land was exempt, historically protected, and sovereign from any future residential covenants. But clearly, Evelyn had missed that part. I decided to pay her a visit. Partly to set the record straight, mostly to enjoy watching her face twitch when I handed her a document older than the idea of suburbia itself. Of course, she lived in the gated part of the community. Her house looked like someone gave a beige paint sample a personality. She answered the door in tennis whites, sipping green juice from a mason jar. "I know about your little land claim," she said, before I could even open the folder. "But we've extended HOA jurisdiction to preserve community cohesion. And you are not cohesive." That's when I knew. It wasn't about chickens or zoning lines or porch bulbs. Evelyn didn't like that I couldn't be bossed. I didn't show up to mandatory voluntary meetings, didn't pay for her landscaping fundraisers, didn't flinch when her clipboard volunteers stood across my property snapping pictures like they were hunting Bigfoot. The next morning, I found 2 things: a certified letter marked with a red countdown 72 hours and a measuring tape staked across my gravel driveway, little orange flags popping up like weeds. She was coming for everything. But what she didn't know was that I'd already won. I had the deed, the history, and one very particular advantage: patience. That night, I started pulling files. I called the county clerk, the town historian, even my cousin Tony, who worked as the regional assessor. I unearthed documents like I was prepping for a courtroom duel. Turns out Evelyn had been playing emperor with no clothes. Her HOA had no legal basis to annex my property. Her own backyard water feature? 2 feet over the permitted zone. Her vote to expand jurisdiction? Null and void without my approval. I let her stew in silence for 3 days. She strutted past my fence, slapped a hot pink violation notice to my gate. I pulled it off with barbecue tongs and tossed it in the fire pit. When the deadline hit, she arrived with her army. Clipboards, matching polos, and her nephew, Kevin, self-proclaimed HOA counsel wearing aviators and a discount lawyer suit. "You're in violation of Municipal Code 4-16B, Kevin read, squinting like he needed subtitles. "We are authorized to begin peaceful removal." I handed him the original deed and a notarized copy of the township charter. He blinked. Evelyn snatched it, read the opening line, and her lips compressed so tight she looked like she was chewing a lemon. That's when the sheriff rolled up. Lights on. No sirens. He stepped out, nodded at me, and turned to Evelyn. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "this isn't HOA property. It never was. And you're on the verge of criminal trespassing. She sputtered something about community cohesion, waved her clipboard like it was the Bill of Rights. Ma'am, he repeated, this deed's older than your neighborhood. You might want to leave before you add harassment to your resume. And just like that, the battle lines were drawn. Evelyn didn't retreat. She retaliated. A new notice showed up the next morning, scribbled in red marker like a toddler's art project, claiming my porch violated the HOA's Zone 7 aesthetic continuity clause. The porch swing? Non-uniform. My dog's collar? Clashed with seasonal themes. I almost choked laughing. Until I saw the utility flags. Bright orange and yellow markers ran across my fence line. A contractor's truck idled nearby. Drainage assessment, the guy said, shrugging. HOA said your land's causing runoff. I called the county. Sent them the deed. Within hours, the contractor returned to apologize. He looked genuinely ticked off. She conned us, he said. Told us it was authorized. Evelyn doubled down. Fake fines started arriving in my mailbox, $50, $500, even $1,200 for things like excessive rooster noise. Despite me not owning a single rooster. The final straw? A citation for an unauthorized flag. It was my grandfather's folded military banner. Federal law protects it. I had enough. I showed up to the next HOA meeting. Walked in early. Sat in the back row. Evelyn stood at the podium, hair sprayed into submission, voice sharp with authority. As HOA president, she said compliance is not optional. She introduced bylaw revisions clearly aimed at restrictions on antique paint colors, tractor use hours, flag visibility. When she reluctantly called on me, I stood up. My name is Grant Winthrop, I said. My great-great-grandfather signed the township charter. This land was part of the original claim. I've got the deed to prove it. Gasps. Murmurs. I handed over documents to the town historian, Mr. Pritchard, who stepped forward with maps, photos, and a full timeline of jurisdiction. Someone in the crowd asked, "So we can't enforce anything on his land?" "Correct, Mr. Pritchard said with a smile. Another voice asked, "Then why we been paying for all this junk?" Evelyn faltered. The meeting unraveled. By the time I left, I knew her grip was slipping. But she wasn't done. Trash started appearing in my ditch bags full of wine bottles and expired hummus. I had cameras. I caught her silver SUV red-handed. I sent the footage to the county. Then came a fire hazard claim. She wanted my barn torn down. Fortunately, my cousin Rare Town's fire marshal had installed the sprinkler system. He came over, inspected it, and issued a glowing safety report. Next, a waist-high fence across my driveway. No warning. Just workers hammering away. I gave them 60 seconds to stop. They didn't. So I fired up my backhoe. They scattered. I called the county. The HOA had submitted false maps. I billed them for obstruction and damages. Sent the invoice with a note, "Next time, try crayons." Word spread. Neighbors got curious. People started asking questions. Why were they fined for mailbox paint? Halloween decorations? Brenda, once Evelyn's ally, demanded a financial audit. Carl started a petition. The neighborhood was waking up. Evelyn made one final mistake. An emergency vote to revoke my land's exemption. Held in secret. Recorded. Leaked. It exploded. State officials got involved. Investigators found misuse of funds, altered maps, even invoices for personal expenses listed as community events. Evelyn was recalled. Her resignation letter was 4 pages of passive-aggressive poetry. I didn't celebrate loudly. I printed the court ruling, laminated it, and nailed it to the fence post. Below it? A sign, "Evelyn's Law ends here." People honked. Someone dropped off brownies with a note. "Long live the Winthrops. Evelyn's house sold within the month." Then came a letter, anonymous, handwritten, "You may think you've won, Mr. Winthrop, but order matters. You'll be managing it alone soon." I tossed it into the wood stove. Months passed. The community changed. The HOA dissolved, replaced by a volunteer advisory group. No dues. No fines. Just neighbors working together. I declined every leadership nomination. Brenda took over. She was fair. The town moved on. On Founders' Day, they honored the original settlers. Kids read essays. Mr. Pritchard unveiled the restored township charter. I was asked to speak. I didn't fight because I hate rules, I said. I fought because some rules shouldn't exist. Later, I sat on the porch swing as the sun dipped behind the barn. The chickens clucked lazily. The land was still. Mine. Evelyn had thrown everything at me: paperwork, threats, fences, garbage, but she forgot the one thing she could never take: belonging. And in the end, the land answered back, not with noise, but with roots. And silence. For